Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad is one of the largest, most vibrant automotive players today. Established in year 1950, more than being an automotive entity in its day, it served businesses such as financial, vehicle, insurance, and spare parts. It also partnered with several other brands of automotive organizations. Outside of Malaysia, Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad has expanded its footprint across Southeast Asia through vehicle assembly and distribution operations in Vietnam, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Axiata Group Berhad head office premises in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It began as Telekom Malaysia run back to 1992 before standing on its own without its creator in the year 2008. Operation for Axiata exists within 11 countries, with the core market of South and Southeast Asia. The latest intent will thus be seen as a merge between Axiata, Celcom, and Digi, which formed the largest mobile operator in Malaysia by 2022.
Liquid ratio have two ratios, its current ratio and quick ratio. The current ratio is financial metric that measure a company ability to pay short-term debt with cover short-term liabilities with short-term asset. A higher current ratio is better than lower ratio. The formula current asset divided by current liability. For Axiata Group Berhad, we get 0.70 ratio by 1. It means Axiata Group Berhad have RM0.70 current asset for every RM1 current liabilities. Next, company Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad is 1.30 ratio by 1. It means Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad have RM1.30 current asset for every RM1 current liabilities. Quick ratio. Quick ratio is financial metric is measure a company ability to pay its short-term debts using a liquid asset is inventory. High quick ratio is better than lower quick ratio. The formula quick ratio is quick asset divided by quick liabilities. Quick ratio for the company Axiata Group Berhad is 0.68 ratio by 1. It means Axiata Group Berhad for every RM1 of current liability, the company only has RM0.68 in liquid asset to settle their debts. Next, liquid ratio for the company Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad is 0.74 ratio by 1. Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad for every RM1 of current liabilities for company only have RM0.74 liquid asset to settle the debt. Activity ratio have two ratio is total asset turnover and account receivable turnover. Total asset turnover is measure how efficiently a company use total asset to generate revenue and sales. Amount of revenue company earns of unit asset is owned. Higher ratio is better than lower ratio. The formula is net sales average divided by total asset, and asset turnover for company Axiata Group Berhad is 0.27 times. It means Axiata Group Berhad for every RM1 in asset, the company generate RM0.27 in revenue. Next, asset turnover company Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad is 0.50 times. It means Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad for every RM1 in asset, the company generate RM0.50 in revenue. Account receivable turnover is a ratio measure how many times a company convert their receivable into cash each year. Higher account receivable is better than lower account receivable turnover. The formula net sale divided by average trade receivable. Account receivable turnover of company Axiata Group Berhad is 3.75 times. It means Axiata Group Berhad for its RM1 in account receivable, the company generate RM3.75 in sales. Next, account turnover for company Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad is 8.56 times. It means Tang Chong Motor Holding Berhad for every RM1 in account receivable, the company generate RM8.56 in sales.
Hello, my name is Nur Aina Natasha binti Kamaluddin and my metric number is 307753. Now, I will continue to explain about the third analysis ratio. These ratios are called profitability ratio. There are two profitability ratios which are profit margin on sales and return common shareholders equity. The first one is profit margin on sales. Profit margin on sales is financial metric that will measure the percentage of profit company earns relative to its revenue. Higher profit on sales is better than lower. This ratio describes company's ability to earn a net income from sales. The formula is net income divided by net sales. For company Axiata Group Berhad, they get negative 11.17%, and it means Axiata Group Berhad incurring loss of RM0.1117 for every RM1 in sales. For company Tanjong Motor Holdings Berhad, they get negative 5.28%, and it means Tanjong Motor Holdings Berhad incurring a loss of RM0.0528 for every RM1 in sales. The second profitability ratio is return on common shareholders' equity. Return on shareholders' equity is to measure indicates how well the company employed the owner's investment to earn income. It will indicates how effectively management is using shareholders' capital to create earnings. The formula is net income minus preferred dividend divided by average common shareholders' equity. For company Axiata Group Berhad, they get negative 8.34%. It means Axiata Group Berhad company losing RM0.0834 for every RM1 of common shareholders' equity. For company Tanjong Motor Holdings Berhad, they get negative 4.79%. It means Tanjong Motor Holdings Berhad company losing RM0.0479 for every RM1 of common shareholders' equity. The last analysis ratio is the leverage ratio. Leverage ratio is also divided into two types, namely debt to asset ratio and debt to equity ratio. The first one is debt to asset ratio. Debt to asset ratio is a financial metric that calculates how much debt company has compared to its total assets. Lower debt to asset ratio, then higher. The formula is total liabilities divided by total assets. Debt ratio for the company Axiata Group Berhad is 63.9%. It means Axiata Group Berhad, for every RM1 of debt, the company has RM0.639 in assets. Debt ratio for the company Tanjong Motor Holdings Berhad is 46.4%. It means Tanjong Motor Holdings Berhad, for every RM1 of debt, the company has RM0.464 in assets. The second leverage ratio is debt to equity ratio. Debt to equity ratio is a financial metric that compares a company total debt to its total equity. It indicates the proportion of financial coming from debt compared equity and used to company financial leverage and risk. Lower debt to equity ratio is better than higher. The formula is total debt divided by total shareholders' equity. Equity ratio for company Axiata Group Berhad is 1.78%. It means Axiata Group Berhad, for every RM1 of total assets, is RM0.0178 is financed by the owner's equity. Equity ratio for company Tanjong Motor Holdings Berhad is 0.87%. It means Tanjong Motor Holdings Berhad, for every RM1 of total asset, is RM0.0087 and financed by the owner's equity.
Hello, and my name is Muhammad Adam Haris bin Azlan, and my metric number is 307749. I will present to you guys about comparison for each ratio between Tanjong Motor Holding Berhad and Axiata Group Berhad. First thing first, we are going to talk about its current ratio. The current ratio describes a company's ability to pay its short-term obligation. If we see based on the calculation that we have done, Tanjong Motor Holding Berhad has much more resilient liquidity position despite by a current ratio of 1.3 versus the low ratio of 0.7 for Axiata Group Berhad. This means that Tanjong Motor Holding Berhad is almost able to cover its upcoming expenses with the current asset. Second is quick ratio. A quick ratio measures the ability of the business to pay off short term when it demands or at any desire. This ratio also emphasizes company ability to quickly convert its current asset into cash for the purpose clearing current liabilities. Based on the calculation, Tanjong Motor Holding Berhad quick ratio of 0.74 surpassed Axiata Group Berhad 0.68, showing it has sufficient liquid asset to cover immediate liability without relying on inventory. The third is total asset turnover. Total asset turnover is financial metric that measures a company in using the asset to generate revenue. Based on the calculation above, Tanjong Motor Holding Berhad has higher total asset turnover ratio of 0.5, showing that they have efficient use of its asset to generate income compared to Axiata Group Berhad ratio of 0.27. Next is account receivable turnover. The account receivable turnover is financial metric that shows us how efficiently the company collecting payment from their customer. This ratio is important for the business because it helps to understand their cash flow situation. Based on the calculation, Tanjong Motor Holding Berhad show a higher account receivable turnover of 8.56, indicating better in collecting receivable than Axiata Group Berhad ratio of 3.75. After that is profit margin on sales. Profit margin on sales is a measure that shows how much the company profit can be collected from their net sales. Based on the calculating, Tanjong Motor Holding Berhad has a negative profit margin of negative 5.28%, while Axiata Group Berhad is operating at loss with a negative profit margin of negative 11.17%, highlighting Tanjong Motor Holding better in profitability. Next is return on common shareholder equity. Return on common shareholder equity is an important measure used to evaluate how good the company used the shareholder equity to generate income. On the calculation, Both companies have negative return on equity, but Axiata Group Berhad, negative 8.34%, is significantly worse compared to Tan Chong Motor Holding Berhad, negative 4.79%, indicating a greater struggle in generating return for their shareholder. We also have debt to asset ratio. Debt to asset ratio is a measure to show that how far the company asset cost by debt. Higher ratio show that the company used many liability to cost the asset. This will be a sign of higher financial risk. On calculation above, Axiata Group Berhad has consistently high debt to asset ratio of 63.9%, indicating its heavily reliance on debt. In contrast, Tan Chong Motor Holding Berhad has a more balanced approach with a ratio of 46.4%. The debt to asset ratio is useful to help a company assessing risk of financial and make sure they are financial in stable position. And the final is debt to equity ratio. A debt to equity ratio is a measure that shows how far the company used liability rather than shareholder equity to cost their asset. Ratio show that the company rely more on debt that can increase the financial risk. Based on the calculation, the debt to equity ratio further emphasizes Axiata Group Berhad heavy reliance on debt financing with a ratio of 1.78 compared to Tan Chong Motor Holding Berhad, conservating ratio of 0.87. In conclusion, Tan Chong Motor Holding doing a great job with its liquidity and making efficient use of its asset. It means they can easily cover their short-term obligation and getting good return for their asset. However, Axiata Group Berhad, despite being more profitable, is taking on a lot more debt, which could be risky if things go for long-term obligation.
Hello everyone, my name is Wan Aman Rahim bin Muhammad Arif and my matrix number is 307536. My part of the presentation is to provide suggestion to improve the current performance of Axiata Group Berhad and Tan Chong Motor Holdings Berhad. Based on the analysis, both companies have low quick ratios of less than 1.0. A quick ratio greater than 1.0 indicates that a company has sufficient quick assets to cover its current liabilities without relying on inventory. Higher quick ratios signal greater liquidity and a stronger position to handle immediate commitments. Lower quick ratios, on the other hand, suggest limited flexibility for meeting short-term obligation. Okay, here are some suggestions to help both companies raise their quick ratios and improve overall performance. First, let's look at the Tan Chong Motor Holdings Berhad, a company focused on automotive manufacturing and sales. First they can do is optimize liquidity and efficiency. Managing inventory effectively is critical for this company. Avoiding overstocking helps reduce carrying costs, while avoiding understocking ensure that supplies meet demand. Both strategies are essential for minimizing losses and improving operational efficiency. Second, enhance revenue stream. Tan Chong is expanding into the electric vehicle EV market to align with environmental trends and attract a broader customer base. A key example is the launch of the new Nissan Kicks, an EV that features e-power technology. This innovation is expected to generate significant interest and boost sales. Third, they can do marketing and brand presence. Social media platforms like TikTok are being leveraged to promote new product launches. TikTok's algorithm help reach both existing and potential customers, increasing brand visibility and engagement. Okay, now let's move on to the Axiata Group Berhad, a leading telecommunication company. First, they can improve debt management. Axiata plans to implement a debt restructuring strategy to lower interest costs. By adopting a zero-based budgeting approach, the company ensures every expenditure is justified, thereby freeing up resources for growth. Second, expand digital and telecommunication service. The company is focusing on enhancing its 5G infrastructure will attract high-value customers and position Axiata as a market leader. The rapid adoption of 5G technology is expected to drive innovation and customer satisfaction. Third, the last one is increased market reach. Axiata aims to address the lack of connectivity in undeserved rural areas. By offering affordable internet and mobile services, the company hopes to bridge the digital divide and expand its customer base.